Hello everyone, Logan here. Blocktales Demo 5 has been out for over a month now, at the time of writing the script, and the reception of it was mixed to say the least. When the demo first released, I saw a lot of constructive criticism surrounding the rewrite, Chapter 5, and the new update in general. And after playing for a bit, I think some of the critiques were justified, while others I don't necessarily agree with. Which is why today I want to go over every notable detail included in this update to give Demo 5 a detailed review on whether it was underwhelming or actually good. Before we get into things, I want to explain how this review will work. I will be talking about the bigger things like the new chapter and the rewrite first, and dig into the smaller details like new cards, Superbosses, and general miscellaneous stuff last. Also, I'll talk about stuff I like and dislike as we go on, and at the end, I'll summarize the pros and cons of the update at the end. I'll post a list of how this video will be structured on screen right now. One more thing I want to mention before we start. Any negative thing I say in this video is not hate directed at Blocktales or any of the development team. I just want to give some critiques so the developers can know what to improve on in the next demo. I wish for the game to keep improving and getting more popular so more people can play this gem of a game on Roblox. Alright, enough of me wasting time. Let's get into it, shall we? You know, maybe starting with the rewrite first would have been better to have some more background information about the new chapter, but not much was changed anyway, so let's talk about Chapter 5, shall we? The Heights is probably my second favorite starting area for a chapter, behind Bisville Railways. It's a cool mountain landscape region based on the Sword Fights on the Heights game made by Shaleski and includes a lot of things that originate from that game, like the red and black disappearing platforms, the ramps, spinning hazards, and the teleporting gates. It's kinda short, but I like all the little references to the original game. A little while later, we enter this wizard tower, which is insanely cool. I like the medieval wizard vibe this area gives off, along with the overseer theming. I'll compliment more on the visual building in this chapter later. It gets even better. Not much later, you meet Opticus the Magnificent, who is Telmon's friend, I think, and a pretty cool wizard guy. He is also the first boss fight of the chapter, and, well, I'll let the clip speak for itself, I guess. Alright, who do we summon first?
What the fuck?
Yeah, 600 HP normally, or in my case, 900 HP with the 1.5 HP multiplier since I was in a trio party. The most notable thing about this guy, besides his HP, is the fact this dude literally creates portals out of thin air. Is that not the coolest thing a boss can do? Damn, this guy seems pretty tough already. This is gonna be a long fight. Oh, he just kills himself. Alright. Also, according to him, we won because his muscles were, and I quote, momentarily misaligned. Interesting, I suppose. Oh yeah, he also gives us a paintball gun, which is a pretty cool overworld ability. Probably the most unique ability since you do this little matching minigame. I like it. It's kinda mid in battle though. The effect it gives is okay, I suppose, but I didn't find myself using it at all, even after learning what the paint effect does. Later down the line, we entered Trinity. I enjoy the general medieval theming throughout Trinity and the rest of the chapter. It's quite nice. Here, we meet Cassie, who assists you through the majority of the chapter and is the daughter of King Cleos, who just so conveniently passed away due to a mysterious sudden illness. There's also the Council, which comprises of Rober, who leads the Splintered Skies faction, Reginald, who leads the Redcliffe faction, And finally, Azuri, who leads the Astral Isles faction. They're all cool, except for Azuri. I hate Azuri! And they each represent different groups on Roblox, and had a lot of different Roblox accessories made for each group. There is also the core blocks, which are the opposing force in this chapter, attacking Trinity once they learned that Cleos had died, which is a pretty interesting setup. The core blocks actually invaded the council during Cassie's coronation, and Cassie kinda just gets one-tapped by Argyle, who is the main antagonist of the chapter, and the sword she was given just so conveniently flies into her hands. Anyways, we fight the core blocks. After that, Argyle makes a retreat, and everyone else just kinda leaves the player and Cassie behind. Both decide to team up, and Cassie spends the entire chapter attempting to regain the trust of the council and get stronger. Wow, this is a nice setup for the future of the chapter. I sure hope all of this is well executed in the end. For the remainder of the chapter, you visit each of the 3 districts or factions in Trinity. I'll mention all the things I found interesting during my own playthrough. Starting off, since there is an invasion, there are normal civilians you can choose to save by talking to them, and if you save all the civilians in Trinity before the end of the chapter, you get an achievement for it. I like that the game rewards you if you go out of your way to save everyone. It feels satisfying in the end knowing you did a good deed. Moving on to the Redcliffe faction, I'm not gonna lie, this part was honestly kinda forgettable. Except for this one line. I said, I need more men! Quote that, bro. The only notable thing here is that you fight Reginald, since he's a day 1 hater, I suppose. I'm not gonna lie, he was kinda easy even on hard mode. At least his theme slaps though, he has that going for him. He is also the only council member to have a dedicated fight, unlike Robert and Azuri, which differentiates each of them, as you will see later on. Moving on to the Splintered Skies faction, it's much more interesting as it has better music, a statue of King Cleos, and a nice boat section where you gotta dodge stuff. Also, the exterior of Robert's court looks so gosh damn beautiful, like, you can't tell me that doesn't look sick, like, oh my gosh. Also, suddenly Ace Attorney for some reason. Since Reginald is a day 1 hater, he rushes to tell Robert that the player is evil. So now you have to prove your innocence in the court, which is a nice change of pace to what would originally happen. Earlier in development, you would just fight Robert instead of the whole court thing, so I like this approach better. You also have to choose the right responses, or else, if you don't, you get an instant game over. I know a lot of people may find this annoying, but as a long-term Paper Mario fan, I think it's very interesting that there are alternate game over sequences in general. I quite enjoy that. After that, you traverse the Astral Isles faction. Okay, as much as I despise Azuri, I gotta admit, this place is also very beautiful. I like the planetary, celestial vibe this area gives off. Also, this music is just so heavenly. Unfortunately, later on, we run into the absolute bum that is Azuri, who leaves the player and Cassie behind and forces us to solve her little puzzle room, which is admittedly really cool. The constellation puzzle is interesting as you need to talk to each of the constellations in order to get hints towards what actions you need to do in Azuri's room in order to escape. Again, I much prefer this over fighting Azuri. It's just much more interesting and makes the area stand out more. After Cassie collects the last Sanctum Shard, she kinda ditches us entirely and goes to collect the Windforce on her own after gaining the confidence to wield it. We head back to the castle and are forced to fight all of the council since they think the player is not trusted enough to enter the 7th Sanctum. I'm not gonna lie, this is probably one of the most unique fights in this game. But Logan, why is that? Well, introducing duo attacks. Each one of the council has a duo attack with each other, and I really like the execution. Dodging them feels more satisfying than usual since a bunch of attacks are coming at you from 2 bosses. Now why do I bring this up? Well, Azuri freaking sucks to go up against in this fight, since unlike Reginald and Rober, she has a specific attack that isn't very telegraphed, and you get punished so hard if you don't dodge. And you get the confused status. Oh, but it doesn't end there. Her duo attack with Reginald, if you don't block it, does 24 damage normally. And not to mention, she has that charge up attack that instantly kills you if you don't use Ghost Potion or Ghost Walker. Reginald and Rober are quite chill though, it's just Azuri that is actually difficult from my experience. Also, just like the Astral Isles area, the Trinity Council theme is also a banger, especially the last part. After that encounter, you travel to the 7th Sanctum. A downgrade from the final areas in previous chapters, but it's still nice. The music is also pretty good here as well. We eventually catch up with Cassie and Argyle makes one final appearance with a massive dragon as the final boss. This is a very controversial boss fight in a lot of people's eyes. Mainly since the boss music wasn't as good as previous final bosses, and the fight in general wasn't handled the best. I at least thought the music was pretty good for a final boss, even if it wasn't as good as a final boss theme like the Ancients. I personally like the dragon idea for a final boss. I think the design looks awesome. Also, if you've been in the Blocktales fandom for even a tiny bit, then you'll know there are countless metaphors of memes of Cassie being fed the Ice Dagger. Since Cassie constantly takes damage in this fight, since most of Frostmaw's attacks are AoE and Cassie is unable to dodge. And using Ice Dagger is a reliable healing option since it heals her for 20 HP per use. Now personally, I don't think the fight itself is that bad, to be honest. I think it's a great final boss to conclude the Core Blocks invasion once and for all, but it doesn't do a good job showcasing Cassie's character development. I put character development in quotation marks since even with the Windforce, Cassie is relying on the player for her to stay alive. Wow, so basically, Cassie hasn't changed at all during the time we met her up until the final boss. Even during the chapter, there is nothing she does that shows her becoming stronger over time. It'd be nice if there was a Core Blocks mini-boss somewhere around one of the factions, and we fight that so Cassie can use that as learning and fighting experience, showing to everyone she can protect Trinity. Oh, but nah. All the Core Blocks were already taken out, so Cassie just sits there twiddling her thumbs while we, yes we, take out all of the Trinity soldiers. At least the ending was satisfying. We kill Argyle like the loser he is, the council apologizes to us, and Cassie allows us to collect the Windforce. By the way, I'll explain my thoughts on the Windforce once we get to the cards section. I'm not gonna forget about it, okay? In summary, Chapter 5 was pretty decent, I suppose. The locations are stunning and beautiful, specifically Splintered Skies and Astral Isles. The writing was okay, but I think it could have been handled better. Cassie's character specifically feels rushed. Like, in the ending, we're supposed to believe she did a lot, but when you really think about it, we did all the heavy lifting for her just so she could wield the Windforce. I hope they go back and fix her to actually give her proper character development. Opticus was also a cool guy, but he had so little involvement in the story. I heard people say they're setting him up for involvement in future chapters, but I wish we got to see more of him since he has such a sick design. The core blocks don't feel like threats at all. You fight them in the Heights area, but they're just gone for the rest of the chapter since the Trinity army defeated them all. Make it so you fight core blocksons while in Trinity, so there's tension throughout the chapter. Like, come on. Also, Argel needs more screen time. There is no way both this guy and Crow King are competing for who has more dialogue. Like, you don't even fight this guy directly. He is carried so much by Frostmaw. The final battle was also pretty good. Not as intense as the Ancients, but I still like it for what it is. The OST for this chapter was really good though. I heard some people say it was kinda bad, and look, I know everyone has their music preferences, but I thought almost every single new piece of music was stellar. Maybe except for Rober's Court since it's repetitive, but even then, that fits that specific area, so I digress. I know I didn't talk much about the enemies, but they were definitely cool, don't get me wrong. Difficulty feels fair considering this was Chapter 5 and all. I think that's all I wanted to say about Chapter 5. Going in, I wasn't expecting anything too crazy. I knew no matter what, this wouldn't top Chapter 4, and it definitely has flaws. But I'd be lying if I said I didn't enjoy it. I definitely had fun. I just think it needs more work. Hopefully a mini rewrite that fixes Cassie's character or something. That's what I hope for in Demo 6. Now that we're done with the new chapter, we can move on to... The rewrite was probably the second biggest thing in the Demo 5 update. Changing parts of the story while adding new cutscenes. A majority of these new cutscenes include the mysterious figure, the main antagonist of the game, and a Lear who is the right-hand man of the mysterious figure. I really like these new cutscenes. It shows the player what's happening behind the shadows and a sneak peek of what the player can expect in the following chapter afterwards. After Chapter 1, Lear hires a bunch of guests that are littered all over Robloxia, and their sole purpose is to spy on the player and report back to Lear. These guys can also create a time rift as well, as shown after Chapter 2, which is very cool. I'm very interested in seeing what they plan on doing for these characters in Chapter 6, when that eventually comes out. Hopefully a boss fight with Lear at the very least. Moving on to the prologue, it's literally pre-rewrite prologue, but with more cutscenes. That being said, Chapter 1 had a couple differences where Crow King has the entirety of Roadtown on lockdown with knights everywhere, and any outsiders are to be arrested. I like the change, but that also causes Mayor Monty to be more serious in his dialogue. I'll miss Mayor Monty sleeping through mid-dialogue, since that was always pretty funny in my eyes. Aside from that, everything else is the same as pre-rewrite. Still, I like the addition of the knights in Roadtown and being able to fight them. It showcases Crow King's power as a king and a threat to the player. Chapter 2 has more differences, and I've got quite a lot to say. Griefer is still the main antagonist, but he instead wants to destroy the Venom Shank, since he believes it's the reason Mayor Thaniel couldn't make time for Griefer and his wife. Oh yeah, Griefer's mother died, rest in peace. Kayoko also plays a different role, and I honestly dislike it very much. She is instead a doctor who stays at Teredopolis instead of traveling around Robloxia. Pre-rewrite was more her looking up to her sister Calypso to be like her one day, hence the world traveling and stuff. She now fulfills the same exact role as Nubidor in the story, which is the player telling them about each of the adventures they experienced in each chapter. I know this probably isn't that big of a deal, but Kyoko is genuinely a unique character, and seeing her basically fulfill the same role as another character but with the title of a doctor feels so lame. Small rant aside, there's a new cutscene where you talk with Terry while he's flying the plane to Plainstown, which is a nice addition. The gorilla that follows Griefer is now present in the second to final battle of the chapter, which is a nice detail, might I add. Unlike pre-rewrite, the final change is that you can now enter Griefer's house once you gear him, and talk to Marathaniel and Griefer to learn more of their story, which is pretty sick. Overall, the changes made to Chapter 2 were general improvements, and I liked everything that was changed. Except the Kyoko change. I still hate what they did to her character. Chapter 3 has stuff changed as well. We find out Lear and Mysterious Figure are responsible for the hijacking of the train, and for sending Green and Purple, which is more interesting than them just showing up unexpectedly. Okay, off topic, but some of these name changes just suck. Why is Spooksville called Scary Town? Scary Town sounds like a 5-year-old came up with the name. Spooksville sounds so much cooler. Also, the chapter is now called The Harrowing Home. Really? It just, who asked for these name changes? And why Chapter 3 specifically? No other chapter got this treatment, thankfully. Like, gosh. Nothing changes until we get to Telmon's manor, and the butler is less mysterious than before. You can ask him questions about Telamon, the Ghostwalker, and even Slasher, who Telamon captured to guard the crypt. Pretty interesting stuff, but damn. I remember seeing this one theory about the butler actually being Slasher on YouTube. I mean, it's nice having all our questions answered, but damn, I kind of miss the vagueness of pre-rewrite Butler. Finally, the Dream World received quite possibly the biggest criticism in the entire update. Now, okay, I didn't experience the new emotions dialogue firsthand since I played the rewrite after it got changed, but from what I've been told, it was bad, man. I still miss the pre-rewrite dialogue of the emotions, though. It feels like they added too much, if that makes sense. The emotions say the same message, but it's just twice as long for some reason. Still better than what we had at first, though. Gosh, they did Hatred so dirty during the first rewrite. The Orlos is genuinely insane. Finally, Chapter 4. Thankfully, the story's barely changed at all. However, I think Chapter 4 suffers from the same issues from Chapter 3, where Captain Trotter basically says the same thing, but it's twice as long for whatever reason. Pre-rewrite, I understood the full scope of what was going on in Chapter 4 without Trotter's extended dialogue. Also, I know the visions from the swords show the user wielding them what happens in the future, but I hate that Captain Trotter literally spoils what's gonna happen to him after the fight, where he says he'll fall off the cliff. Ruins the whole suspense in the scene, since the player now knows what's gonna happen, compared to pre-rewrite, where they aren't exactly expecting it. My final nitpick is that Calypso blames her own crew members for their own death for literally no reason. For example, she says, "Why didn't you guys stick together? They were literally with us before Temple Guardian broke the bridge." Also, what do you mean they did it to themselves? What were they meant to do in that situation? They can't control themselves surviving that high of a fall. Other than that, the story of Chapter 4 still holds up. The extended dialogue from Trotter isn't a problem for me personally, but I feel it could be simplified easier, like in the pre-rewrite. Well, that was the rewrite. I thought it was gonna be worse going in, but It actually wasn't half bad. Answered a lot of questions, and is even better than some of the pre-rewrite dialogue in some cases. Mainly Prologue, Chapter 1, and Chapter 2. Hopefully Chapter 4 gets an improvement in the rewrite department in the future though. Anyways, it's time to dive into the new challenges Demo 5 has to offer, such as... Demo 5 came out with 2 new Superbosses this update, and both the fights are really worthwhile and amazing. The first of the two is Cruel King DX, which is basically the original Cruel King fight in Chapter 1, but the attacks hit harder, he has more moves, he has his own special status effect when he reaches 1 HP, and Ice Dagger works against you in this fight as it will heal him instead. I like this new rematch against the King. It's a challenging refight that gives Chapter 1 its own super boss, and it renders the Ice Dagger useless in this fight since it heals Cruel King instead, which makes this fight stand out in my opinion. Also, it's miles better for the Call Cruel King card obtainment compared to previously where you had to fight the King 5 times in Nirvana instead. In the end, Cruel King finally realizes the error of his ways and finds that he and the player have a mutual enemy, being the mysterious figure, which is a more reasonable factor for him to give us his call card. Finally, there is a completely new super boss in Chapter 3, the Mutant. Once you unlock the Brigand Sword in Chapter 5, you can open up the Red Room area in the manor guarded by the Metal Gate, which is where Mutant is held. At first, the Mutant seems pretty strong. If you don't dodge some of its attacks successfully, it can steal your HP, which is annoying, and resets any progress you've done in the fight. Also, it wouldn't be a Chapter 3 super boss without a charged up attack, right? However, the fight isn't actually that bad once you learn how to perfect dodge the stretch attack and consistently super guard the single slam attack. The multi-hit is annoying as if you don't dodge certain parts of the attack, you get the confused status. However, it easily gets countered if you bring a Feel Fine card. It only costs 1 BP to bring into battle, so essentially, there's nothing to lose bringing this into the fight. Also, you can dodge the charge up attack, but I think potentially getting hit is too big of a risk, so I just opt to use Ghost Potion, or if I have enough sword energy, use Ghost Walker. This fight is really good and challenging. I like the lifesteal gimmick from Mutant. It forces you to superguard most of the attacks, so they don't heal back any progress you've made. Also, the music here is a banger too. It has that Ghost House vibe. I totally rock out with that. Defeating the Mutant gives you the key to the attic, which grants you alright rewards, I'm not gonna lie. This is the second stack of Slinger you can achieve. The other being Eternity, which allows you to pierce 2 defense with 2 stacks with Slingshot. Which isn't the worst, but that costs 6 BP, which is a hefty amount if you ask me. Investor is good for grinding ticks, and pack tactics, which honestly kinda sucks. Look, if defense enemies are really giving you a hard time, Power Shot for Slingshot and Softener for Sword exists. And you can lower defense with Rocket Boots as well, just why? Another great thing in this demo was, of course, the new floors in the pit. The craziest part about some of these levels is that some levels specifically have enemies that synergize well with each other. Like for example, Pit 55 has both an Astral Summoner and a Sky Healer, both of which can heal all enemies, and Sky Healer can activate shields, which nullify any attack for 2 turns. Also, the Ghost Spirit can give a dodgy effect, similar to Ghost Walker, which is so annoying. Yeah, this fight was designed to make it stall for as long as possible. The new pit exclusive enemies are pretty cool though. It's something new. Instead of fighting the same enemies or bosses you would normally fight in the main story. These last 3 floors are something else though. Pit 57 throws all emotions, except hatred, and Opticus at you. Okay, seriously, what is he doing here? It's kinda easy since all the emotions and Opticus have very reactable attacks. Even Apprehension isn't that bad. What I normally do for this fight is summon Cassie turn 1, target Greed for no reason, target Fear next, and then end with Solitude, and Opticus will kill himself by the time you're almost done with Fear. So, no need to worry about him. Just pray Cassie doesn't attack Opticus. Pit 58 has 4 bosses with all types of charge-up attacks. Some charge-ups weaker than others, but still. My strategy is to take out Griefer first, since if he hits you, you get the slowness test, which skips your turn, which is very annoying. I go after Reginald next, since out of Slasher and Trotter, his attacks are more annoying to Superguard and dodge. Plus, he has 2 defense. After Reginald is dead, I go after Slasher, since, I don't know, he has less HP, I guess. I know Trotter's attacks more than Slasher, since doing Pit 49 caused me to learn his attacks very well. Finally, I killed Trotter last since he is the easiest to deal with personally. If he summons the Pirate Spirit, which you will, take out Trotter and spam Focus and use Ice Dagger to reach max HP and SP for the next fight. You will need it, trust me. Finally, in Pit 59, they invited a random Toothy Deer to the fight. Okay, seriously speaking, this fight is tough as hell. This took me, I want to say 3 to 4 hours to finally win, because once you die, you go all the way back to floor 50, which takes up so much time just to return to this fight in particular. I decided to take out Azuri first, since, just like originally, she has the most annoying attacks to deal with. Once Azuri dies, pray on everything that Toothy Deer summons the useless Venom Spirit, since that enemy has the most tolerable attacks out of all the spirits Toothy Deer can summon. Also, kill Toothy Deer next. After that, it's pretty much smooth sailing. Target Reginald, then Rober, and finally the Venom Spirit or whatever Toothy Deer summoned. This fight was so agonizingly painful. Don't get me wrong, I love the challenge, by the way. I don't think they should change it to be easier or something. And what do you get for your hard work? Freaking pack tactics. Oh my gosh. Wouldn't be a Blocktales update without any new cards to mess around with, right? To sum up the new weapon abilities for Slingshot and Launcher, they're pretty nice. Slinger and Rockman cards apply the same buff for Slingshot and Launcher respectively. I feel like Rocketman needs a different buff though. Plus 1 defense pierce makes more sense in Slinger's case, since normal Slingshot normally can't attack enemies with defense, and Slingshot is DPS anyways. There was also Pack Tactics. I don't think I need a rant about why I think Pack Tactics is so bad. Just use Softener or Rocket Boots when dealing with defense enemies. It's a bit disappointing this was the only action card introduced in this update. I hope there would be more, considering this update took 11 months to come out, and the one action card we got is just heavily outclassed. Anyways, there were 4 new attack FX cards introduced that can only be obtained by, unfortunately, killing flying cloudies. It took me over 50 minutes to get all the new ones. It was not worth the grind, trust me. Now for the new calling cards. There is technically 2 new call cards actually. Call Jerry occurs after chapter 4 when Calypso is all depressed and stuff, and can't be called into battle. So she is instead replaced by Jerry. He isn't the best, but he's here for emotional support. You can't blame him, he's trying his best, alright? You can use Calypso again once you complete chapter 5's final boss. Though, I don't know how to feel about temporarily locking a call card you earned for a whole chapter, but you have Cassie anyway for basically all of chapter 5, so I don't think I mind too much. Speaking of Cassie, her call card is pretty good. She has decent attacks, her fireball does 6 damage including the burn effect, which is really good. She can apply buffs like defense and attack up, heal everyone for HP, and give HP regen. And a trait unique to her is that she cannot be attacked by any enemies or bosses from Trinity, which is so helpful since you're constantly provided with buffs and heals from her, and you don't even have to worry about her dying. Finally, I want to talk about the Windforce sword you achieve after completing chapter 5. See, I told you guys I wouldn't forget. The Windforce does 6 damage, applies defense down for 5 turns, and applies the slow effect for 4 turns. Defense down is actually a pretty good debuff to have since it makes Slingshot able to damage defense enemies without the power shot or slinger cards. The slow effect is extremely helpful too, especially in fights like Finn McCool with the annoying summons. Using it skips a lot of their turns, and you can take care of them quickly, making them not even a threat at all. Windforce has pretty mid damage, but pretty good debuffs that last a while. I still don't think it's worth 3 sword energy bars though. It's good in niche scenarios, just like Ghostwalker, but it's better to save sword energy for the other swords than use Windforce. For the last section, I want to talk about some other notable stuff before we end off this video. There are new avatar flavors for every single flavor in the game, and I think each of them are pretty charming and look quite nice. My favorites are definitely orange with the nice white suit and the orange headband. Grape, since I like the reference to Bright Eyes, and purple is also a cool color as well. Blueberry with a cool Sonic reference, and blue is one of my favorite colors as well. And ending off with apple and mint flavors. I really enjoyed the reference to Mario and Luigi. Also, we gotta talk about those goofy dialogue icons. I know the inspiration for this game is from a Nintendo IP, but did they really need to take a page out of Mario Galaxy and add an icon in front of every story relevant character for no reason? They also added pictures of key items, like an image of a key when you're inside Blackrock Castle. Like, dude, I'm not 5 years old. I know what a key looks like. I feel it's very overused. If it appeared like once or twice, I don't think I'd mind too much, but it happens in every single dialogue sequence. Thankfully, you can turn it off in the newest patch though. To conclude everything, I really enjoyed this update. The new chapter was honestly pretty alright. The chapter kinda felt like hype moments in Aura at times, and the story felt extremely rushed. It sticks out like a sore thumb. As crazy as this may sound, I think the developers should have waited longer before releasing this update, cause there is no way the developers looked at the story and thought Cassie and Argyle were well fleshed out enough. Hopefully the story does get improved in Demo 6 though. New locations looked stunning though. OST was amazing. Rewrite was pretty good as well. It ruined some things I liked about the old story, but I'll let it slide. The new Superbosses and pit floors are good challenges added in the update as well, but the new cards are sort of lackluster though. I wish a quarter of them weren't cosmetic cards, but the new stuff we did get was quite nice. Thanks for making it all the way to the end. I don't ask for much, but a like and subscribe would be much appreciated. I spent a long time on these videos. Mainly the script writing, editing, and any support would be much appreciated. Once again, I'm not here to hate on Blocktales. I entirely just wanted to give my own critiques and what I enjoyed in this update. I can't wait for Demo 6. Hopefully the wait isn't too long. I'm excited for what the devs have cooking up for the next demo. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you later.